Okay. All right. So, welcome everybody to. I have to do it again.
That was such a big intro.
Start over. Withdrawing.
Now I get to heckle.
Right.
The best I get to heckle.
Welcome everybody to part 2 of today's fantastic look at bad code. All right. So, to be clear, I am not a developer.
What?
Okay. I was a developer. I was not a very good developer. And fortunately, I realized that before other people and transitioned into running development shops. So I know, I'm like a parent.
This is his office.
This is my office.
You
Yeah.
have to let him.
I kind of see myself more like a parent. It's more a case of do what I say, not what I could possibly do myself kind of experience. All right, so this whole presentation is based on my perspective on, thank God Christian is back. Okay, all right, so from my perspective, you'll stand up here and you'll go, look, my code is awesome. I'm like, okay, justify it. Why is it awesome? Why is it good for me? And by me, I mean you. I mean, I just said, right. Why is it good for us as a team? Because y'all can argue all damn day about how great your code is, but I kind of care about consistency. And I'd much rather have consistency than y'all arguing about what is better or what is not, right? So today, I'm going to look and talk about who actually writes good code, right? And who determines what that is, right? Because if you ask Joe, right, his idea of good code is not the same as Ernesto's, is not the same as his, right?
You're wrong.
Actually, you're wrong too, right? And what can we all agree on? And from my perspective, how can we apply tooling? All right. So who writes good code? I absolutely guarantee you. Not this guy. Not this guy. Maybe. So here's the problem. All of them have GitHub repos, and we can tell.
It's like my search history.
Oh,
You'll go there.
Actually,
Keynote speakers right there are stock just fine.
okay. So actually, I'm going to tell you none of them write good code. The only person who writes good code is this guy. And you know why? It's because he buys me free pizza and beer. Okay? So that makes his code better by being fault. I don't care about their code.
Wait, who is that?
He's my own boss.
Alright, so there's this guy. He's also, and I hate the fact that he's not here, because apparently he got hooked up on a police report, and I found this on Google when I was searching for a picture of him.
Well, moving on. It's our sponsor.
Anyway, alright, so I did a little Googling, and what is good programming? Alright, and I found this, and I'm really sorry guys, because you really picked a bad seat. Okay, what is good programming? It's simple, okay? I guarantee you most of the programs that most of you write are not simple. It's readable. I guarantee you that most of the stuff most of you write is not readable to anyone that's not you. It's modular. Most of the people that work with you don't even understand modularity. Okay? It's layered. What, like a cake? What? Okay? It's well designed. Well, okay, whatever. Anyway, this is a great list to people that care about a list that looks like this. You know? But my view of modern application development looks much more like this. Ah. Really? Really?
People right there. It's on Twitter.
Good
stuff.
Because I guarantee you, I am not pulling that up. Right. This is modern JavaScript development. This is layering. Okay? That Alright? So don't any of you tell me that you write good code, because I've seen modern
That dude
JavaScript,
is clearly a professional.
and I will bitch about modern JavaScript in a different presentation.
Where do I buy them?
Alright.
The business was happy with
He made it to the end, but no one knew how. Alright. Okay. Alright. So, for a moment, who actually determines what good code is? Well, there are actually no, stop. Okay, stop. Anybody watching on the camera? Joe is sitting there. All right, these guys do. All right, so these guys are actually recognized by way more people than you or I are. They are the group, or they run the group that is responsible for ESLint. Okay, so in your tooling, right, and we're going to look at some of it later, these guys write the rules of what is good and bad code, right? And the beauty of modern coding is it's reviewed by thousands of people, millions of people, all right? Hey, who cares if there's a semicolon at the end of my code? It runs, right? Okay? I sure as hell don't care if there's a semicolon at the end of your code.
I mean, it's there, but you put it there.
Right. So, hands up. Who is aware of linting? Well, that'll make this easy. Okay. For those people that are not aware of linting, and we'll take a look at it as an example. Yeah, all four of you. Okay. Basically, in a modern IDE, like in Visual Studio Code, you can hook a linter. And I don't even know why it's called a lint. Lint is crap that comes out of the dryer. Why is it called linting? Who knows? It's to get rid of the fuzz.
Yeah.
Really?
Yes.
Why isn't it called semicolon?
Because it's more than
Anyway,
those things. It's called semicolon.
so
Is there an English idiom for that, Mark?
these, then for the most of you, these are all the rules that you all live by that makes for good coding, right? These are all rules that you all actually agree on every single day, except when you don't.
Well, I just want to say, like, as a team, you usually agree on these. Not all of these, though.
Most of these,
Fully customizable.
Definitely not all.
they are, unfortunately, if your team is run by a dictator, he can turn these off or modify them to his own will, all right? But stupid stuff like leaving debugger on. Don't leave debugger on when you push stuff to production. It's a really bad idea, and my clients care, and that's generally my fault. So I really care when you don't do it, okay? So it's a stupid thing, but who checks your code to make sure the debugger's not left on? Well, peer reviews. Yeah, we don't do those. Customers, they find it interesting or not, right? Okay. All right, so there are other things, and what's actually really cool is if you actually look into this, because I didn't actually know this, if you actually go down and look at their code for ESLint is actually written in JavaScript. And it's very modularized. Read this file, check what's on the end of every line, all right, and check is the word debugger in this line.
Why are you excited that it's written in JavaScript?
Because
It's ESLint. It's ECMAScript lint.
Okay. It
right,
checks
I'm gonna let it go.
ECMAScript. Why would it be written in JavaScript? There have to be better languages for parsing text files than JavaScript. Just saying. Okay. So these are rules that we all actually agree on. All right, I'm actually going to make a plug for Prettier that Ernesto talked about before. All right, that's something that I care about, and it's not because I like pretty code. All right, I like consistent code. I like arrays that are not split over 15 or 14 or 5 or 3 or whatever it is lines. Okay, and I'm going to show you what, if you're not using Prettier, you should be using Prettier or something equivalent within your team. That makes your code easier to read and more maintainable. It's a really common sense kind of thing. All right. So, and I think you guys are already pretty aware of this. Who cares about whether you write good code? Well, it's people like this. right? Because I guarantee you, he's one of these people, all right? And if you work in my world, he will have your ass if you don't, all right? So not being a developer and not actually knowing whether you write good code, I would just like to share with everybody, every single client doesn't give a rat's ass about your code. Not one of them cares about your code. I care about your code because I'm responsible for your code and their experience, okay? Right? It's an important thing within a team, within a group, that we're consistent, that we do things well. So let's agree on a few things, right? I would like your code to be reliable, right? Is it going to work, right? Is it maintainable? Well, that means a lot of things to a lot of people, but there are certain things that you can call out and go, nope. Is it secure? It's kind of a thing nowadays, all right? If we even do unit testing, unlike some people in this room, how bad's your code coverage? How good is your code coverage? All right, and is there any duplication of code? There's nothing worse than old school web development going, if, copy that, change 100 lines, paste 100 lines of code and change a variable. If then, brilliant, right? That's how we did it. And if you didn't, I don't believe you, you're a liar, or under the age of 30, okay? All right, so Sonarqube, which is really what I wanted to talk to you about today, is something I care about and something I think could benefit all of you, or not, it's up to you, all right? And the way that we use it is as part of a build and deploy process, all right? So this happens to be Azure DevOps, it could be Jenkins, it could be TeamCity, it could be whatever you want, right? But right after your NPM test, right, after you've published your coverage and how awesome your tests are and what have you, I want something that I trust, right? Not necessarily something that you said was good to go. Because here's the thing, I'm not looking at Visual Studio Code, I'm not seeing that you turned off the linter, all right? Right? You can all do that and get away with it, but I want a good check. And importantly, I want to be able to tell the clients that we provide a quality experience for them, right? I care about that. You may not, I do. You should, and if you work for me, you will. All right, so we're all going to agree that Sonarqube is awesome. It's welcome to my world. All right, so it's going to tell you if you have smelly code. It's going to tell you if you have bugs that run by the rules. You know what? It's actually going to go to the line of code and point out the stupidity that you are. Love it. I love it. Right. Because in all practicality, you can run Jest and you can get a report. But oftentimes they're a text file that's completely unreadable by normal people. You need a nice, easy way to be able to digest it, understand it, point out the stupidities, and I don't want to see this again, you moron. Okay? It's how life works. So, what is Sonarqube? Right. It is actually an open source project. It's actually written in Java, but we won't hold that against it. All right. It runs against like 15 different languages. And basically it runs on a very simple set of rules, just like ESLint. In fact, scarily like ESLint, in fact, in the case of JavaScript. Suspiciously so, right? It's built up of a, ooh, I'm gonna figure stuff out, I'm gonna be really smart, and I really don't understand how this works, and I don't really care. And if you wanna host it, it's open source, you can host it on whatever database you want. Right? You can host this internally, you can host it in the cloud, you can pay them to host it for you if you really don't like money. Okay? So, on a more discrete level, what it does is it integrates into your build process. Right? So, you can actually run a thing called SonarLint in VS Code. So, you should never have any problems in JavaScript because you should see all of these before I see them. So, I guarantee you if I see them, there's a problem. Right? And then basically, as part of the build process, you check your code in, the build starts, it's part of the build process. If it fails, you don't carry on. So we actually have a client who doesn't believe in feature-based branching. They believe in trunk-based branching. They don't believe in peer reviews. Because they say, look, nobody actually peer reviews anybody else. I mean, who's got the time? Who's got the time? So their attitude is we have tooling to do it for us. And they only do a peer review if you're dumb enough to let this fail you. Okay? Because there are a million different ways to make sure that this is not going to fail you before you get there. Primarily, you can run this on your own machine and you can test your stuff before you check it in. Okay? We'll just go there. All right? But that's, I have multiple clients, large clients, that have so much code going into production on a daily basis. They need to have something like this because they don't have the manpower to review what is good quality. All right? So let's talk about a demo. Okay, so yay, CLI. I love CLI. I mean, CLI. Oh, Jesus. Okay.
Yeah.
The only reason I'm showing you this is because it's really, when it's in one really long line, it's really hard to show. Okay, so what you're going to see is we're going to run a scan on my local code. It's going to run on a project called Ice Cream Shop. It's then going to send the product to my Sonarqube server with a little bit of security. Now this is where it gets really interesting, and thank you to Christian and Joe last month, who made me realize that if I tell it where my tests are, and I tell it what not to test, then my code coverage goes up significantly. It's brilliant. Bingo! Right. No, seriously. The way they put it to me was, if you're programming in Java, you don't unit test java.io. Right? If you're using a programming framework, you don't test their framework. You know? All right, and I'm also going to put in my code coverage path test in here. This is all going to run locally, and it's going to go to this.
That's a valid login.
Yeah. We can use that.
Don't worry, I'm adept at blurring things out. It'll be fine.
Well, I'm not entirely sure I care, but all right. Okay, all right, so Visual Studio Code, Control-Shift+ for all of those of you who are going to speak in the future. All right, so this is not my code. This is code I stole from the internet. All right?
For educational purposes.
Repurposed. Okay, whatever. All right, so there's lots of red going on in here.
I
Okay?
can't see it.
I don't see any of it there.
Oh, you mean the file names are red.
Yeah.
But I assume there's red squigglies going on all over the code itself. Oh, down there. Okay, sorry. This is an interesting.
For those of you who are colorblind, this is entirely red. The whole screen is on fire. Jesus.
If you scroll up and down that code, are there like red lines in the code that tell you where?
All right.
No?
So we are going to run a test. All right. Come and see us in October. We'll have a presentation on that. All right. My tests failed. That's a bit sucky. Right. So there is this thing called Jest that you plug in, and I'm not even going to go into Jest because, okay, it's a thing that does stuff. Okay. Right. It's a thing that does tests that I tell other people I care about. I told you this was going to be a serious presentation. Anyway, some of my tests failed, including right up here. Actually, within here, you can see within this particular file, this test failed. And it actually is telling you.
Hey, Mark, that red squiggly is what we were talking about before.
When
Joe was saying,
yeah, I know he was, but Joe's rude and he interrupts. Anyway, so this test is looking for a 22, and it received a 1. Okay, so that basically tells me that something in here is not going very well. And you know what my fix is?
Delete the test.
Nope. Fix the test so it doesn't fail. Don't fix the code, fix the test. All right, because running in the background, I thought I had Jest running in the background, but it doesn't look like it.
You just don't have it watching.
Yeah, I did. All right, so we're going to run a test again, and that test is going to pass. Whatever. Anyway, don't really care. So, for the sake of this presentation, if you run this through a CD build, it won't get to Sonarqube because it will fail the tests. Don't care. All right, so here's some stuff that TS-lint is telling me. We have a duplicate function, one called quality change handler, one called quality change handler. And for those of you that write fantastic functions, you've never experienced a corporate, here's a 2,000 line file of JavaScript that does everything, okay? All right? These things were not necessarily written by programmers as good as you, okay? It's kind of painful, all right? So immediately the IDE is telling me something sucks. It's also telling me that it cannot find whatever that is. I tried to figure out why it couldn't find this. I couldn't, but I'm not a programmer. But I guarantee you I'm going to make somebody else find it. All right? And over in here, in my SAS file, there's this property that we don't know what it is. All right? So, whatever. You could clean all of this up. All right? But I think for my mind, what becomes a little bit more important, actually, to be serious for a moment, is when you actually do a pull request and you do a merge with somebody else's code, and they only actually review your code, what we don't actually review is what is it going to do to the branch when it actually gets loaded up into the system. All right? That's when we actually kind of care as well, and that's assuming that you're even doing code reviews. Right? So what I am going to do is and this is really the only copy and paste I'm going to do, and this is why I explained it earlier, right? This is checking my SAS, it's checking my CSS, it's checking my JavaScript, it's checking my JSX, my whatever I tell it to, actually. But what it's really doing is it's running through those rules I was talking about earlier. These are all open source rules. Sonarqube is an open source tool that you can all run for free, and you can host for free, and you can use for free.
No joke, I just want to make sure that I'm like with the thread here. I saw you show ESLint, I saw you show Jest, and I'm wondering, what is it that Sonarqube is adding to that mix? Exactly.
I don't know what build tools everybody's using to put code into my branch. Potentially corporately. I'd love to have control over it, and you're absolutely right. In theory, it should be plain sailing every time. It's not. All right?
So,
it is not.
So is it that by not having it tied to, for example, a particular Git repo module in like node modules, this is externalizing to make a more global, globally available
and
infrastructure
this
for
is the master, right? I don't care if you think your code is good, you could merge it with his code, right? It might not be good, all right? When it's all done, it might not be good. But here is a set of rules that we can all agree on, and if we don't agree on them, we can actually go in and change them internally, so we're at least all consistent. But here is a set of rules that you can all use. Okay, so what this does is, this is actually running in the background, but it hasn't actually changed a whole lot, all right? So here's another thing that it does, is it makes a good faith estimate on how crap your code is. And this is why I say justify yourself, all right? Because what it's doing is it's telling me that whilst this code works, it's kind of smelly, all right? It's not great, it's not perfect, and it surfaces it up. So here's the other thing that it does, is over time, this better get better, not worse. All right? So from a program management perspective, I want to see your code and your quality of code getting better. And this is a fantastic way of you proving it. Okay, so let's go take a look at some of those bugs.
Hey Mark, do you have much turnover on your team? Because
actually,
I've had some feedback about how you talk to your developers.
Actually, well, you can actually talk to my developers. Actually, no, we really don't. And I may be ruder to you and Joe than them.
I imagine you are.
You probably ask those two. I might not be, actually. But so, all right. So we've got a problem here. It's a bug. All right. But if I click on See Rule, it actually explains to me why this is a bug. Oh, that's really helpful. And if I actually click on here, I can actually determine, is it a bug? Is it a vulnerability? What's going on? Can I assign it to somebody? What's actually going on? And here it is, it's actually highlighted that particular problem in that particular piece of code, which I really care about because I didn't look at your code before you tried to put it to production, right? Okay, so let's look at some other stuff that it has a problem with. Vulnerabilities, I was talking about it earlier. The use of debugger, bad idea, bad idea. Because apparently hackers are only smart enough if you stop the code going through. I don't know why this is, I don't know why this is a vulnerability. This shouldn't be a vulnerability, this should be pisses off your user's ability. Okay, but that's what it flagged. All right, so we can probably get rid of that. It tells me the file, tells me the line name and everything else. And then we have some smelly code over here. We actually have, oh, here's something else you fantastic developers won't come across, is a very, very large CSS file with .row in there 15 frigging times between the top and the bottom, because this has grown over time, and you will spend a day finding that one line that you didn't know existed, right? This is going to prevent that, right? So all of these are really stupid little things, but the stupid little things grow over time, all right? And if you can cut them out early, you will reap the benefits later. We also have some stupid crap over here where something about some variable is not used. So this, perfectly good JavaScript, perfectly terrible JavaScript. All right, because there's no need to say it's true false. All you have to do is actually put a bracket around it and determine if it is truthy. Yay JavaScript, it doesn't care if it's blank, 0, null, it doesn't care. It's either true or false. Go JavaScript. Right? Oh, apparently Chelsea supporters write shit code.
I did catch that earlier.
Oh, you did? Oh, thanks for paying attention. All right, so...
And you think Liverpool sucks?
Liverpool sucks because my dad supports Liverpool. Right, down here, so this is one of the cool things I also care about. When you're actually doing unit testing, it will actually show me and tell me where the tests aren't actually being covered properly. So this is really cool. I can actually come down here and it will actually tell me the lines of code that are not covered by a test. I actually love this more than anything else. Okay?
I mean, that's what Istanbul is already. I mean, it's.
You know that. I don't know that. I don't know how good your code is. I don't know how maintainable your code is.
I guess what I was asking earlier, and I'm just kind of reiterating, earlier when you ran Jest, and you said Jest was running, and then it was kind of crunched up in your terminal window there, but it output this table, and likely it also, if you had it set up, output that to like an index HTML file that you can view, and that's called Istanbul, and it's built into Jest, and that's what that's what this is. Mm-hmm. So I'm still lost on exactly what Sonar Cube
But again,
is doing.
when we both merge code, both sets of code may be tested, but when you merge it together, it might not be. You don't know until it's merged. You might merge it locally, you might not, right? And hence my client that does trunk-based development that doesn't know how good their code is until it's merged. Okay, not sure I agree with that, but you know, right? But again, I also don't know what tools you're using in a small team. Easy, right? In a big team with multiple development teams going across many projects, you need to have something like this as a gatekeeper for quality. And it's free, why not? It wouldn't hurt you. All right.
Oh, Sonarqube is free.
Sonarqube is free, right? It's open source. You can host it yourself. You can pay them to host it if you want.
So does ESLint also check out the vulnerabilities which Sonarqube does?
So,
I'm not sure if ESLint does it.
all right.
I think Mark has a lot of money invested in this.
In the most perverse way I do, because if my clients demand that we use it, I need to know how to use it.
And at the end of the day, that's the most important thing, that the person paying for all this stuff can see it somehow.
And there has to be a reason. And you know, you can all come away from this going, I don't care. All right, fine. All right? I'm not sure I care.
Also
But
to build out like what he was just showing us in a UI from it, like using Istanbul as an example.
Sure.
That is like immediately visible and presentable.
Totally.
Right.
You could have a
So
customer come in and be
a
like,
lot
"Their
of-
code is shit,
Yeah.
and I can prove it." And that's great. You're empowering
So-
the customer.
So, not to give away company secrets, but the way we do business is everything we do is fully visible to the client.
Wow.
So
That's why
if
you're
we
in
use
little
this,
office.
they can see, right, I don't work for a startup that just goes, ooh, website, okay? Right, I work for other people, right? They want to know how good our code is, right? And how do you show that, all right? Anyway, so who writes good code? These boys.
Michael Avrio.
Ah. So I'd like to talk about this guy.
Uh-oh.
Got you. I'm just gonna run up and turn off the camera.
Oh, did you run this on my
his
GitHub?
GitHub project? Oh, that's what you did.
So what we're going to do now, boys and girls, is we are going to have some audience participation.
This is actually
So,
gonna be your friend.
Uncle Todd has 31 GitHub repositories. Okay.
on forks though. Can't
Some of them are a little
Yeah, like
older than
go for
others.
it.
Some of them have really interesting names. Some of them are really boring to throw at a tester, I'd just like to say. But we are going to, I am going to want your opinion. Alright? So we have a GitHub repository called Werewolves React,
I really want to know what we're
which is a year old. Or if we go all the way down here, we have something that's 3 years old called Werewolves.js. So we're gonna test one of these, all right? Hands up, who wants Werewolves React?
There's like nothing in it.
I don't think
I would
testing
go with
someone.
this one.
That's like testing
So-
someone's writing 3 years ago. If it's
Yeah.
gonna be worse than
There's like
Of
nothing.
course it is. Now, I will tell you, thank you. Because in all honesty, Werewolves React, whatever it is that's out there, the bugs that come up with it are so boring, I had to come up with a way of you all picking something else. Okay, so we're going to take a look at Werewolves.js.
Oh yeah, this is not great code.
And I'm not even going to run it. Because you know what? I don't care what it does. I care if it's quality. All right, so we're going to go over here. We're going to over here. Because what I also actually want, the point of this particular demonstration is to actually show you how easy it is to use Sonarqube, all right?
Not to berate Todd.
Well, both, right?
Well, I wasn't going to
There's
pick
like-
my code, was I?
There's like bonuses involved.
All right. So if we actually go up to Sonarqube and we look at projects.
No tests in this
All right.
repo. I can guarantee you that.
Oh, that's not the problem with your code. All right. So
So Mark,
Right.
when you find these problems, we're gonna need you to fix them.
and when you see them, I happily will. All right. So werewolves. We're going to create a key called werewolves. And for some level of security, what you can actually do within your build tool is you can hide this secret key and can create a connection so you don't have to put it into the CLI. But if we actually look at werewolves, we're going to go in here, we're going to generate a token.
Just check.
Ooh, token already exists. All right, where is werewolves 2? I don't care. I may have tested this earlier. All right, it's not a real programming language and it's not on a real operating system. So what it does down the bottom here, for those of you who can't see, is it actually gives me a really basic command line to actually run at his code.
I'm gonna run that against this presentation.
So,
after this one.
okay.
That's
All right.
Joe's joke. by
So
the way.
we've done the npm install. Let's do an npm test. No, let's spell npm test. Ooh. Da-da-da-da-da. Oh, there are no tests. I guarantee you his coverage is not going to be good. All right, so we're just going to literally take that and we are going to throw it up there. Now, this, as you may have noticed before, it takes a couple of minutes. So what I'd like to reiterate whilst we're waiting for this with like bated breath is you can actually install a Sonarqube server locally. Right? It's basically a bunch of Java files. It doesn't even require an install. And you can actually run it at localhost. Yes, Joe?
So no, maybe now I'm seeing the value of this. You're not actually installing those things to the clone repository, right? You're not adding anything to the package JSON or anything. you're running this against the existing code,
Absolutely.
whether it has ESLint or
Yep.
Jest or anything
Yep.
else. Okay, so there you go. Thank you.
Honestly, there is almost no harm whatsoever to add it to your build process.
But you didn't even have to add it to his build process.
Correct.
You just pointed it at his
Oh,
repository.
who handles this logic? What?
That's a hat handles this logic.
Anyway, yes, question.
I noticed that you have a batch file. Is that locally? Maybe you covered that. Like, do you
Yeah,
have
so
that
Sonar, the Sonar scanner now is installed locally, or you could install it as part of your build process. It's just another thing that gets run on a virtual machine.
It's just running all the CLI commands.
Right, and what I don't actually have installed is Sonar Lint, because Sonar Lint requires a JRE. And with the current version of Java, that doesn't exist, right? For those of you that haven't used Java in a real long time, Oracle changed the licensing, and it's a lot less free than it used to be. There is no more JRE, and so I can't run it locally. Oh, look, it succeeded. You got a question?
I'll save it for later.
You sure? All right. So, let's have a look. Let's have a look. Oh, look, it came up already. Awesome. Ooh. Oh dear.
It's just gonna be
Oh dear. Oh dear. And he didn't even know about it, right?
So
Well-
there's 26 bugs?
I've got to tell you, as you go through these,
Nice with the doc.
you look at them and you're like, really? A freaking dot type? So, whilst it calls it a bug, it's not a bug that doesn't break your HTML. It also enhances good programming practices,
Yeah, it's
right?
gonna be red, though.
So, you know, you have a missing generic font when you're using something that doesn't have a generic font. Okay, fine. That's clearly a terrible error. Not quite sure how that works. All right. Don't use I tags, use EM tags. Well, if you write 3-year-old code, well, what do you expect?
Yeah.
What do you expect? All right.
Thank you, Mark.
And then, yeah, so actually, you know, most of, oh shit, jQuery. jQuery is a huge freaking bug throughout this entire thing. Is basically, jQuery sucks.
Sounds like bug.
Did you just say jQuery is a bug?
Yeah, jQuery sucks.
I disagree with that.
No, I love jQuery, but according to the rules of Sonarqube,
That's from Bootstrap. Because
jQuery
actually it is. So if you even go further and actually take his code out, there's almost nothing wrong with it.
I'm not saying it's
Percentage on the
actually
bottom
good
there?
Yeah, 0. Right. So this is an interesting one. Make sure that your regex is good. Right? It doesn't know if your regex is good, but it wants you to do something based on an input to a regex. Can someone abuse this? Perfectly reasonable, right? And there may be a good reason why you want to write uncommented strip for IE7. What the hell does that mean? Code in here. Thank you, Robert. I really appreciate that. All right?
I have a whole series on regular expressions in JavaScript on egghead.io. You should watch that.
Just so everybody knows, Joe is holding back on talking at this particular meetup about regular
Joe,
expressions.
did you say you have an egghead course on regular?
Do you do egghead?
Oh my God!
I'm shocked.
How much does it cost for an egghead subscription?
Do you have a referral code?
Please talk to the or Joel Hooks to find out more.
So, in summary, Todd's code doesn't suck anywhere near as much as I was hoping it would. I really, really wanted it to suck, and it doesn't. And actually, if you picked React, Werewolves React, he actually has tests in there as well. NPM test doesn't run, but I'm sure there's a reason.
Who knows what I was even using? Back
Right,
then.
right, and again, this is somebody's I'm playing with shit repository, right? Okay, this is not a real piece of code, right? It might be.
So to tie it all together, I wrote
It's
those
kind of
clean
explicit.
code principles, and if you listen to what Rob talked about early, it'll help with your Sonarqube evaluation apparently. Because
Yep.
clean code apparently evaluates well. All of those were library code. people writing Bootstrap don't know what they're doing.
Apparently. 90-some% of the websites in the world.
That was probably too far.
It's not
It was
afraid of
hyperbole.
puzzles.
It's hyperbole.
The toilet is not that way. Where were you?
I'm just checking it out.
Okay.
Some champagne.
Anyway, so that's basic. I really don't have a good conclusion, actually, because if you can't draw your own conclusions from this presentation, all right, then it was kind of a waste, but it's also not for you, all right? Sonarqube is free, all right? It's like sonarqube.org. You can find it, you can Google it.
Yeah, but actually kind of cool.
Right?
That's actually kind of
It
cool.
really doesn't hurt anything you're doing, okay? You can add it to your build chain and you can only get better, right? The way we want to use it internally is, yeah, having a semicolon on the end of the line, your code still works. Not having a doc type, your code still works, all right? But you know what? We have better code because of it. We can demonstrate we have better code, and more importantly, we have more consistent code internally. So I would like to reiterate, I don't care what you think about what good code is, right? I care about, is it maintainable, is it consistent, and can somebody else on the team actually read and use your code? And whatever you all argued about, I can't tell that, whether you wrote it well or not.
I assume in Sonarqube, and maybe you covered it and maybe I missed it, you can configure all that and say I want these rules on.
Yes,
those
you
rules
can.
off. So-
Absolutely you can. Just like ESLint, and you can modify and change the rules
So-
just as much as you want.
About that, are some of these turned off? Like we ran our C# code against this, and it tells you things about like cyclomatic complexity and like how hard it is to read your code and like really interesting like insights in your code. Like not just because I think the problem is you just see stuff here that we will see because we use CSLint, we use all that stuff locally, but it would tell us stuff that we couldn't get out.
So the rules that aren't for JavaScript are better than for JavaScript.
Okay.
Yeah. Code
Fine,
complexity.
Right, so for those, I've meant to show it earlier, for those of you that have never seen Prettier, when you save your code, it will do that. Very simple, all right? And even stupid stuff, like if you forget a semicolon, it will add it for you.
So I have two questions related
Just
to business type stuff. So one is there are business demands for like code consistency and stuff like that, but then there are other business pressures for making things out on a release. And if we have an infrastructure that is like getting in the way of a business priority based off of a like lower business priority that is also a technical priority.
Yep.
How does that look in like what you're
No,
envisioning?
it looks like what it is. So what this enables you to do is make a really good calculated decision about this is the amount of technical debt that we have. But you know what it
Failure to distinguish between this is what we think is good looking code versus this is probably going to break code or anything like that. Is there?
Nope. It's only as good as the rules that are written.
And do they have it? So Joel, sorry,
Joel? Who's Joel?
The guy in the back.
Egg.io.
So is there a distinction between? Is there a distinction between, for example, warnings and errors in this process?
Yes.
Okay.
But then, you know, even what it thinks is a security flaw, you might not. It is own, so each of the different rules has a flag, and you can go into it, and I didn't think anyone would care, but you can go into it and look at each of the rules, how they run, and what flags they throw when they actually run. And Ernesto's right, because if you actually run this against a Java project, it will crap on you from a high level.
It ruined me.
Right? But it won't do that for JavaScript, because here's why. There are 15 different ways to write good JavaScript that still do the same damn thing.
Sure.
Right? Java is incredibly well rule-based. JavaScript, not so much.
Have you used Spring Ruby before?
I mean, what?
I,
Spring Ruby.
Spring Ruby.
No.
Yeah, I'll take it. Never mind.
Okay. Does that, oh, question back.
So, are you saying that I can use either ESLint or Sonar Cube but not both?
No, you can use both. You can actually, if you really want to be nagged by the IDE, and you don't have to run 1.8 Java on your machine. If you can run 1.6 Java on your machine, you can actually install Sonar Lint on here, and it will nag you all of the rules that are up there. Everything that comes up on the website will nag locally. Because basically what it does is it runs, oh look, now Jest is watching in the background. Freaking typical, stupid thing. It runs in the background. Every time you save your code, it runs through all the rules, right? Which does tend to bog a laptop down, but you can run it locally yourself.
But it would run, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Go on.
So Sonarqube is more for the build process and ESLint is more of local?
So yeah, ESLint is built into the IDE, but they basically use the exact same rules. I mean, they're not literally the same rules, but they're basically the same rules.
Well, so as a follow-up question though, I'm just clarifying. I may have ESLint set up and ready to go, and it says, you know, I don't give a shit about semicolons, but if Sonarqube does, then it's separate.
Right, well, but here's the thing.
Separate.
ESLint passes this line, which is perfectly good JavaScript.
What I mean is Sonarqube is not going to look at my ESLint settings.
Nope.
It's going to look at
No,
whoever set up
it's,
Sonarqube.
right, which also allows me as a manager to stop you from screwing with your local settings and telling me your code is awesome.
That also means you have to.
Again, all it does is it drives consistency, and consistency is really so much more important to me than you guys arguing whether or not a function should be commented or not.
I also noticed that
With the highest level of respect, because everything he said was awesome.
Smoking crack. It's true.
I saw that too. And
I had a joke built into
I like
that.
that you have a comment for emphasis.
Yeah, very true.
It's not
Very
small,
good.
Questions?
So is there a way, so I've seen, we have some legacy code and I've seen 20,000 comments in Sonarqube.
Yeah.
Is there a way to link Jira tickets to specific comments in Sonarqube? Or is there?
I think there is, but I haven't gone that far in it. You know, you can. I think so. I think so, but I can't say for sure. I wish I could. Certainly, I do believe there is an API that you can get these things out, so it wouldn't surprise me if there was.
So I apologize, is ESLint just for Java and JavaScript, or is it for most languages?
ESLint is very specifically for JavaScript.
Okay.
And I can't comment about .NET, but I know Visual Studio does a very similar thing. I can't comment about Java, but Eclipse does a very similar thing.
Because there are different.
ESLint is just for JavaScript.
Oh, JSN was a separate thing. That must have been. Is that crowd
I think it was Cloudflare.
All right.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think JSN is.
Thank you very much.